After a family gathering, my bank account was suddenly empty. My husband shrugged. We all agreed you didn't need that money. Shaking, I pulled out my phone and said, "Then you won't need this either." As they left, a loud knock echoed through the house. The door opened, and a group of investigators stepped inside, and I, 36, female, have been married to my husband Alan, 38, male, for almost 9 years. We don't have kids, but we've built a life together, or at least I thought we did. My dad passed away 7 months ago. He wasn't rich, but he was smart with money and had a life insurance policy. I was the only child, and he left me around $215,000. He told me more than once, "This is for you, for your future. Use it when the time is right." I cried the day the money hit my account. It felt heavy, not in a bad way, just like I had to protect it. I didn't go spending it left and right. I didn't buy a new car. I didn't even upgrade my old phone. I was grieving and planning quietly. I put most of it into a high yield savings account in my name only. I made that very clear. I also quit my job around that time, not related to the money, just a toxic office situation, and I've been taking a break to figure things out. Alan said he supported me. "Take your time," he said. "We'll figure it out together." I believed him. It was a sunny Sunday in Santiago. We were all at Jenny's place, Alan's sister. Big backyard, lots of folding chairs, paper plates, beer coolers, the usual. Alan's family was always close. Like, almost too close. If you've ever had in-laws who do everything together, you know what I mean. I always felt a bit like an outsider, even after all these years. We'd just finished eating ribs and brisket. The kids were running around. I was sipping sweet tea when out of nowhere, Alan's mom, Julia, brought up my inheritance. "You're lucky your daddy thought ahead," she said, not even looking at me. "Must be nice to not have to worry." I said something like, "Yeah, I'm grateful." That's when Alan jumped in. "She's not even working right now. She's just sitting on it." I looked at him, confused. Rose, other sister-in-law, said, "We were thinking it'd be smarter if we used it for something that benefits everyone." Me? Julia, we all talked about this. You've got money you're not using. We want to invest land, real estate, maybe a business, something smart. I was stunned. That money's mine. It was left to me. Alan leaned back in his chair like he had this all figured out. "But it's not like you need it. You're not working. You don't have debt. We could build something bigger." I was quiet and furious, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of all their cousins and kids. I said, "I'll think about it," and went to help clean up. The next day, I went to pay Luke's vet bill, opened my banking app, balance 36 cents. I thought it was a glitch. I checked the savings, empty. I literally screamed. I don't even remember walking to the living room. I just remember standing there, shaking, phone in hand. I called Alan. He answered like nothing was wrong. Me. "Where's my money?" Him. "Calm down. I moved it." Me. "You what?" Alan. "It's not gone. I just moved it into an account with my name on it too. It's safer that way." "Safer for who?" I asked him. Who told him he could do that? He said, and I quote, "We all agreed you didn't really need it." We, being him, his sisters, and his mom. He kept going like this was normal. "I've been talking to Jenny and Rose. We figured we could pull it and make some real investments. It's not like you were using it." I couldn't breathe. I was shaking so bad I dropped the phone. What Alan didn't know is that I'd gotten suspicious a few weeks ago. There were weird comments, hints dropped, conversations that ended the moment I entered the room. So I'd started documenting. I had screenshots, bank notifications, a recording of Alan saying something about accessing your account. I had emails he forwarded to himself from my computer about the insurance. I also had a cousin, Zainab's, and cousin Samson, who works in financial investigations. I called him in tears. He said, "Do not confront them. Let me handle this." He looped in people, told me to sit still, keep acting normal. For 3 weeks, I gathered info, every whisper, every suspicious withdrawal, every shady Venmo note. All of it went straight to Samson and his team. They traced funds going into a shell company Rose had registered. They found out Jenny had used some of it as a business deposit. And Julia? She tried to get her church to co-sign a loan using my money as collateral. That night, Alan came home with Rose and Julia like some kind of intervention. Alan, you've been acting hostile. This is a group effort. Rose, you're sitting on money that could help this whole family. Julia, God wouldn't want you to be selfish. I was on the couch, cold, quiet. Then Alan said, "It's not like we stole it. It's all in the family." They laughed like I was being dramatic. I stood up. I pulled out my phone, looked Alan dead in the eyes, and said, "Then you won't need this either." I hit send. A knock hit the door. Alan opened it. 3 men stepped inside, badges, suits, clipboards. One of them said, "Alan Mond, last name. We have some questions about financial activity connected to your residence." Alan stood frozen at the door, hands still on the knob. The 3 men stepped in like they owned the place. Suits, clean cut, calm, but not friendly. One of them flashed a badge. "We're with the Financial Crimes Division. Mr. Last Name. We have some questions regarding unauthorized transfers and account manipulation." Alan's mouth opened, but no words came out. Rose backed toward the hallway like she was going to melt into the wallpaper. Julia stood up with a shaky voice. "Now hold on. There's been a misunderstanding here." The lead agent looked around. "This the residence where the funds were funneled through?" He turned to me. You're my name correct?" I nodded. He handed me a folder. "We'll need you to confirm the transactions listed here were made without your consent." I opened it. It had everything: the withdrawals, the LLC, the wire transfers, copies of checks, screenshots of signatures I never signed. Alan looked at me, eyes wide. "You did this?" he whispered. I didn't even blink. "No, you did this." They split up fast. One agent went to the home office. Another started questioning Rose, who was now crying like a toddler on the kitchen floor. Alan tried to stop them, said they had no warrant. They did. It was stapled to the front of the folder. Julia kept talking. "You don't understand. This was all for the good of the family. She was just sitting on it." She was still in the room. Me? They were talking around me like I wasn't even there. While the agents were going through our drawers and laptop, I went into the bedroom and pulled out the binder I'd been building. I handed it to the lead guy. He raised an eyebrow. "You were prepared." "I've been ready for weeks." It had screenshots of Alan messaging Rose about clearing out the account before she changes her mind. A recording of Julia saying she'd deal with me if I didn't cooperate. A bank slip with Jenny's signature withdrawing $5,000 for consulting fees. They weren't just stealing. They were organizing it like a business. An hour into it, one of the agents called for his supervisor, said something wasn't adding up. Turns out Alan didn't just move my money into a joint account. He used my identity to open a credit line. A big one. Almost $80,000 in loans sitting in my name. He used part of that to cover the investments because apparently they already blew through over half of my dad's money. I didn't even know what to say. I felt sick. Rose finally snapped. "I told you this would happen. I said she wasn't stupid." Julia screamed at her to shut up. Alan was pacing now, swearing, saying it wasn't a big deal, that it was all internal and could be fixed without police. The lead agent said, "Sir, using someone's identity to open financial instruments without consent is a felony, and it's not internal." Then Jenny showed up. She hadn't been there before. I guess someone called her. She stormed in like she was going to save the day. She walked right up to me and said, "You think this makes you some kind of hero? You're tearing this family apart over some money." I looked her dead in the eyes. "You tore it apart when you stole it?" She scoffed. "You're so dramatic. Nobody stole anything." Agent. "Actually, ma'am, you received 6,400 in stolen funds. That qualifies." She froze. After Jenny sat down and got real quiet, one of the agents called me outside, said they needed to show me something. I followed. He opened a file on his iPad. "You recognize this man?" He showed me a picture. It was Alan, only he was with another woman. She was holding hands with him, a beach in the background. "Where did you get this?" I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. "This was pulled from financial tracking software. He's been making large payments to this person's account for months." And another folder: trips, gifts, hotel bookings, one-line item, $500 diamond necklace. I felt everything fall out of me. I had known things were off, but not like this. The woman's name was Violet, and she wasn't just someone Alan was seeing. She was listed as a cosigner on one of the secret accounts. Where my money had gone, meaning he was planning a life with her, with my money. I stood there in the yard, staring at the street, cars going by like nothing was happening. Inside, the shouting continued. Outside, my world tilted. One of the agents said, "We've seen this pattern before. He was probably going to drain everything, then leave." I asked, "So what now?" He said, "Now we go deeper." Just as they started pulling evidence off our shared laptop, someone found a hidden folder encrypted. They cracked it, and inside were PDF files of other people's documents. Not just mine. Rose's ex-husband's info, Jenny's college roommate's social, even Julia's old boyfriend's tax records. I looked at Alan. He sat on the floor, silent, head in hands. One of the agents said, "Looks like someone's been doing this longer than just to you." Another added, "We might be dealing with a serial fraudster." So yeah, turns out Rye wasn't just a lying thief. He might have been a whole fraud operation by himself. The agents took the laptop and made a copy of the hard drive. Then one of them pulled me aside again. "There's more," he said. I laughed, not because it was funny, because I was at the edge of breaking. Of course there is. Apparently, Alan had an alias, not just a fake email, an actual alternate identity. Same birthday, different name, different driver's license, same photo. He had a fake LinkedIn too under the name Ryan K. Sellers. Claimed he was a freelance financial consultant out of Dallas with a completely made-up resume. But it worked, because with that identity, he opened multiple business accounts. Some had my stolen money funneled in, some didn't. Worse, one of the accounts had deposits from people we didn't even know, other victims. He was selling fake investments, crypto, real estate, LLC shares, total scams. They traced $40,000 to a woman in Oklahoma who thought she was buying into a land flip. Another man in Louisiana had invested $15,000 into a startup that didn't exist. Alan wasn't just robbing me. He was running cons on the side. The next twist came when I was called to ID someone in a photo. The agents showed me a group pic. Alan, Julia, Jenny, and some man I didn't recognize. Clean-shaven, suit looked like someone who sold insurance. They said, "Do you know him?" "No." "Well," the agent said, "he's listed as a silent partner on one of the LLCs your husband created." Apparently, his name was Terry Vaughn. Guess who he turned out to be? Julia's old boyfriend. But more than that, he was the legal owner of the house Julia was living in. She didn't own it like she claimed. She was fronting. Terry was involved in this whole thing. And suddenly, I realized something else. Julia wasn't just annoying. She was in on it. The deeper they looked, the worse it got. Turns out Julia had helped Alan forge part of the documents needed to access my high-yield savings account. She used a notary friend who signed off on an authorization letter that I never wrote. That notary retired 2 years ago. Fake stamp. Fake everything. The "we all agreed" line Alan had used wasn't just arrogance, it was a plan. They had been working this out for months. They didn't just pressure me to hand over the money, they planned to take it, whether I agreed or not. That night, after most of the agents had gone, Jenny stayed behind, sat on the couch across from me like a ghost. "I didn't know about the loans," she said. I didn't say anything. I knew Alan moved the money. I thought it was temporary. Still silent. Then she looked at me and said something I didn't expect. "I think Mom was trying to get you declared incompetent." I blinked. "What?" She said if you didn't agree, she had ways. Said you weren't working, you were grieving, that it could be spun, that we could get access legally. I felt like the air got punched out of my lungs. Julia was trying to get legal control over me. They weren't just trying to steal money, they were going to go to court and say I wasn't in the right state of mind to handle my own finances. Jenny handed me a folder. It was copies of court paperwork drafts of documents that Julia had started putting together. Custody-style petitions. Doctor notes she had started writing with the name of my old therapist, also forged. The lead agent called me later that week. "We've got a new problem," he said. Rose had disappeared. She missed a scheduled interview with investigators. She had cleaned out her personal accounts and pulled cash from an ATM in Kerrville, then vanished. Now they were calling it interstate fraud. The FBI was being looped in. Alan still pretending like he didn't know where she went, but the investigators had already found texts of him telling her to lay low. They were spiraling. All of them. And I wasn't even close to knowing how deep it really went. Within days, Julia's notary friend got questioned, broke immediately. She had no idea what she was signing. Julia had told her it was a letter for a church donation transfer. She also said Julia had told her I was going through a mental episode and might act paranoid. I can't explain how it feels to know someone spent months trying to paint you as unstable just so they could steal from you without resistance. And worse, how easily they almost pulled it off. So by this point, the whole thing had already started to crumble. Alan was under investigation. Julia was caught forging documents. Jenny had turned in court papers that Julia had been hiding. And Rose, she'd vanished. I didn't think I'd see her again, but I did. It was 2 weeks later, at a preliminary court hearing about the frozen accounts. I was sitting next to my lawyer. Alan, Julia, and Jenny were there with their own legal teams. We were all waiting for the judge to enter when the doors opened, and there she was, Rose, wearing sunglasses indoors, dressed head to toe in black, like someone in hiding. But that wasn't the shocking part. She wasn't alone. Right behind her came Violet, the woman from the beach photos, the one Alan had been sending money to, the one he told everyone didn't exist. They walked in together, sat in the back, silent. My stomach dropped. Even Alan looked thrown off. He turned white, like he'd seen a ghost. The judge entered. Proceedings started. But it didn't last long. Rose raised her hand. "I have a statement," she said. Everyone turned. Her lawyer walked up and handed the clerk a folder. Then Rose stood, voice trembling but clear. "I want to confess. I helped move the money. I knew it was wrong, but I didn't know everything. Alan told me it was family money, that she agreed to it, that she didn't want it, that we were protecting it from lawyers." She paused, looked right at me. "I didn't know he was planning to run, that he had someone else, that it was all fake." She glanced behind her. "Violet found me, told me the truth. He used her too." The entire courtroom went still. Violet stood up, spoke without permission. "He told me his wife died, that he got insurance money. He said it was his." I stared at Alan. He buried his face in his hands. Julia said loudly, "She's lying. This is all twisted." But no one was listening to her anymore. Alan snapped, jumped up. You think you're all innocent? He shouted. You were in on it, Mom. You told me to do it. The judge slammed the gavel. Order! Alan pointed at Julia. You said we'd be fine, that it was hers, but not really hers, that she was too soft to fight. Jenny yelled, You dragged me into this. I never wanted to be part of your scam. Julia screamed, I did what I had to do. Family sticks together. Then she turned to me. And you ruined everything. We were a family before you brought outsiders in. I didn't even flinch. Before I brought in the cops, or before I found out you were trying to get me declared mentally unstable just to take what wasn't yours? Dead silence. Then the judge ordered everyone to sit down. One of the agents stood and read out the full findings. Fraud, identity theft, wire fraud, conspiracy, forgery, unauthorized use of personal information. Court went into chaos. Bailiffs escorted Alan and Julia out. They didn't even look at me. Jenny cried. Rose slumped forward like the last piece of weight finally landed. Outside the courtroom, Violet came up to me quietly. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know. He lied to me too. I nodded. I know. She pulled a necklace out of her purse, the one I'd seen in the account logs. Expensive. Gorgeous. She pressed it into my hand. This was bought with your money. You should have it back. I looked at it, then dropped it in the trash can next to us.